Okay, listen. I want to preface everything I'm about to say with the statement that I'm a massive hypocrite, and anything I say negatively towards power scaling, I have done and probably will do throughout the duration of this video. So, power scaling. It's the bane of existence for a large part of the anime community, but for some, it's just so much fun. I figured I'd start off with the negatives of the age old who punches the hardest conversation because I'm going to sound insane when I inevitably go into my power scaling rants here in a bit. So the consensus between people who either watch anime casually or aren't huge anime nerds like myself is pitting two characters that probably aren't even in the part of the same stories against each other is kind of pointless, especially if those characters aren't even in the same genre. For example, people that pin Asta from Black Clover against Harry Potter, it's completely irrational and pointless because the rules established for both characters in their respective universes are not the same, and also they're fictional characters, so their abilities and tendencies don't really matter because whoever the author wants to win will win. That's how stories work. That's why the bad guys usually lose. By the way, Asta stomps Harry Potter easily, said by a man who's never watched anything Harry Potter related ever, which actually ties into one of my points later on about bias, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Now, these points aren't just fair or good arguments. They're just objectively correct because fiction is always dependent on the person writing the fiction because it's fiction. For example, okay, I've had this argument with my friend countless times. The argument goes, I think that based on everything we've seen Saitama from One Punch Man do in the anime, Goku stomps him. Based on every feat we've seen Saitama do, based on what we know he can do, Goku just wins pretty handedly. But then my friend comes back with an argument that I can't really rebut because it's just kind of right. He goes, in Saitama's story, Saitama's whole thing is that he beats everyone handedly, hence the name One Punch Man. So if Saitama were written, not Saitama, if Goku were written into Saitama's story, Goku would lose handedly because that's how Saitama's story is written. And while I still believe that everything that Goku has done just eclipses what Saitama has done in the anime, and kind of in the manga gets kind of crazy, but even though I believe that Goku has shown to be stronger, there's no rebutting his argument because it's just right. If the author or the mangaka of One Punch Man wrote Goku into the story, Goku would probably lose because the whole point is that everyone loses against Saitama. So, right about now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking about liking the video and subscribing. But but other than that, you're thinking, so if this whole power scaling thing is legitimately pointless, why do it and why talk about it? Because it's really, really fun. Listen, I understand and honestly even agree with, like I just said, most of the points that people make against power scaling. But, like, if you think about it, you can use the argument of it's pointless, therefore you shouldn't do it for pretty much anything, like a lot of things, at least a lot of hobbies. Let's take kickboxing, one of my hobbies that I do pretty often. I train 5 days out of the week, and I spar 2 days out of those 5 days out of the week. And while, yes, it's a physically stimulating activity where I get to try new things and meet new people, I could get all of those things by just taking a Zumba class and remove the added risk of having brain damage or CTE. And a similar argument can be made for many other hobbies, but at the end of the day, to me, punching people in the face and getting punched in the face, it's a lot of fun. I like it. So even if it can be argued to be pointless, that's what I want to do because I find it enjoyable. It's really no different with power scalers or the power scaling community. Yes, there is an entire community. And honestly, there's a lot of intelligent people that show off crazy critical thinking skills to try to pull off the rationale of whoever they want to winning the fight. One big YouTuber that comes to mind that I've been just binging his videos lately is this YouTuber called Six. I'll probably put him up on screen now. Like, he goes really, really in depth on how one character would hit the other character harder. Like, it's crazy. But notice how I said the one he wants to win, which kind of leads me into my next point. That is one of the inherent flaws with power scaling. You pick who you want to win, meaning there is just an inherent bias in the whole thing. Now, I'll give certain YouTubers like Six the benefit of, not the benefit of the doubt. I'll give them props. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. They try their best to not be biased and genuinely go by feats, as they call it, which is just things that the character has done before to show a level of strength, to judge who would win in what fight. But the funny thing about bias is that literally everyone has it. Now, you could yell "nuh-uh" into the mic 100 times before you argue whose dad beats up whose dad in a fight, but your bias is still there. Here, I'll use myself as a punching bag again. My favorite superhero ever since childhood has been Ben 10. I love the guy. Now, some of you might know there's a channel with literally the sole purpose is to just power scale, that being Death Battle. And I think if you watch Death Battle, you know where I'm going with this. Anywho, Ben was put up against the Green Lantern in a death battle and lost. And I thought it was complete and utter bullshit to the highest degree. And listen, I'm not going to get into it, lest this be an entire video breaking down the abilities and the strengths of Ben 10 versus Green Lantern, which I don't think you want to watch. But, like, I have to admit, a lot of the reason why I think Ben 10 would win in a fight with Green Lantern is probably just because I like the guy. And anytime I see Green Lantern in anything, he's getting his ass kicked fucking handedly. Like, by like everybody.
Stand back and peep the light show. Green Lantern's got this.
Here's a little side tangent for you. One of the things that power scalers do that kind of boils my blood. Whenever you pin a comic book character against any other kind of character, manga, like normal superhero, whatever, there are so many iterations of the comic book characters by so many different people that they can kind of just pick and choose whenever the character does this one thing in this one comic and be like, well, that one thing makes it so they just wash every other character. A good example of this is that one time that Spider-Man became God, essentially. People will use that to say, well, like, Spider-Man can demolish Goku because he's like this omnipotent threat. And it's like, yeah, but that was that one time in that one comic. It really bothers me when people do that. Okay. So probably one of my last points, and this is going to be a pretty long one, is the amount of hyperbole there is in power scaling. What do I mean by this? I don't think you understand how many times I've heard the terms massively faster than light or planetary when power scalers talk. And like, sometimes they're right, and the characters really are just that strong. But sometimes they're just over-analyzing feats or statements made by the author who probably doesn't know what they're talking about. Or they don't know the amount of strength required for the character to do what they just did in the story. I have two big examples of this. And before I go into any of this, keep in mind, I am not a Final Fantasy or Devil May Cry fan. I don't know much of anything about those two respective universes. I just found this line of logic that Death Battle uses really, really funny. So I'm going to use it as an example. So there's this Death Battle where they pin Sephiroth from Final Fantasy against Virgil from Devil May Cry. And like I said before, I'm not a fan of either one of these series, so I truly just don't know who wins. Like, I don't have a horse in this race. But there's this one tidbit where a Sephiroth adjacent character slices through a door. And I'm pretty sure the creator of the game or whoever writes the game had the character do this just to make an entrance, just to like look cool when they're coming in and fighting the bad guy. Death Battle then beginning to calculate based on the dimensions of the door the exact amount of newtons of force required to slice through the door. And stay with me here. And then compared the force that this character presumably generated to slice through the door to Sephiroth's strength stat in the game, to then conclude that in a single swing of his sword, Sephiroth is able to generate, here I'm reading this word for word, the force of 30 Hiroshima bombs in a single swing. This conclusion was reached by watching a 30-second clip throwaway thing in one of the games where a character was just trying to make a cool entrance. They concluded that with a single swing of his sword, reading it word for word again, 30 Hiroshima bombs worth of force can be generated by Sephiroth. Now, I may just be ignorant. Like I said, I don't play any of these games. I don't know anything about them. But if this were true, why doesn't Sephiroth just blow up the planet by swinging his sword a couple times? Like, I'm thinking anytime this guy fights, there should be craters everywhere. And this isn't the only, like, super wacky thing people do with power scaling and stuff. A very, very, very common one is either the fans of the series or the author of the series directly stating that characters can go at light speed. Now, characters like the Flash have been said and been established to move at light speed. But characters like the Flash have this thing called the Speed Force, a written-in plot device that deals away with all those pesky physics that say that if you go that fast, everything around you, including you, would just disintegrate. It would just go poof. Just going that fast would be one of the strongest things a character could have. I don't think I need to be a scientist to say that if someone directly next to you goes from 0 to light speed, I think that would do more damage to the surrounding area than we see a Rasengan do in the show of Naruto. Now, why am I saying all this light speed stuff? It's because there's this one particular scene in Boruto that kind of like, you know, it bothers me a little bit. There's this one scene where Naruto is fighting this cyborg named Delta. And if you don't watch Boruto, this is going to sound very dumb, but listen, it's not that bad. Like, just read the manga. You'll get it. So Delta has, wow, it sounds weirder the more I get into it. Delta has these eye lasers. Stay with me. And the eye lasers are, by the author, like by the book, are stated to be as fast as light because they're lasers. Okay, I'm following so far. Delta is getting washed by Naruto, because it's Naruto, and decides to target Himawari, Naruto's daughter. She throws Himawari up in the air, Naruto goes to protect her, and Delta shoots the lasers. While the lasers are traveling towards Naruto and Himawari, Kawaki, being like 10 to 20 feet away on the ground, is able to react to the laser, jump up in front of Naruto and Himawari, and block the laser. Meaning that you are rationally able to assume that Kawaki is actually magnitudes faster than the speed of light because he's able to react to a light speed attack, and from being 10 to 20 feet away, jump in front of the light speed attack without his karma marking on. Like, he was just base form. This is just, what was he, 13, 12 at the time? 12, 13-year-old Kawaki, he just jumped at light speed to block this laser. Now, that is a reasonable line of logic to say, light speed attack, he got in front of it faster than light speed, right? But the funny thing about Naruto is that there is no plot device like the Speed Force that makes it so physics stop working in the Naruto universe. Because if that really happened and Boruto was standing right next to Kawaki and everyone was like 20, 30 feet away from each other, And Kawaki went from 0 to light speed next to everybody. Boruto would have ended early. Like, everyone would have died. The second Kawaki made impact with fucking dust that he kicked up from the ground, it would be like a nuclear explosion happen in the middle of Konoha. Like, I don't think they understand what they mean when they say light speed. And let's just suppose it just doesn't work like that in these universes. People can just go light speed without any physics impairing them at all. Okay, why don't characters utilize the light speed for other shit? Like I said before, if you can go at light speed, I don't give a fuck what else you can do. Just going that fast is a part of your main kit. Like, that is your superpower. I don't give a fuck what jutsu or what, like, special karma like, going at light speed should be a part of your kit because that is extremely overpowered. So why is it that in times when Kawaki is running away from Konoha towards the end of Boruto, or even Boruto in this latest one of the latest chapters, chapter 6 of True Blue Vortex, where he was running away from Konoha, why don't they just start running and clear out of there in milliseconds? And even if, like, the other characters are that fast as well, like, let's take chapter 6 of True Blue Vortex, for example, slight little tiny bit spoilers here. If Boruto does go at light speed, which presumably he should be, because if we follow the line of logic, Kawaki at the age of 12 with no karma marking, probably a lot slower and weaker than Boruto now post time skip. If he could just go at light speed, and let's presume that Mitsuki, the person chasing him, also goes at light speed, the chase wouldn't be happening throughout Konoha. The chase would be happening throughout the planet. I don't think you understand. If you truly could go at light speed, you could just circle the planet in 7.5 seconds. There should be basically no chases ever throughout the course of Naruto past the point where they have been stated to go light speed. It just wouldn't happen because unless you have another light speed character, the person would just clear out of there. And if you do have two light speed characters, the chase wouldn't be happening in a single village or in a single country. They'd be circling the planet multiple times over. Now, is this a big deal? No. To be honest with you, I think the authors just want to make their characters sound really impressive, so they use hyperbole terms like light speed and planetary to just show off that their character is doing something really cool. But I don't think they really truly understand what it means when they say these things. They don't get the repercussions of when I say a character goes light speed, that's just their thing now because that's just the most overpowered thing in their kit. I don't think they really get this, so it's kind of funny to me when power scalers see a character slicing through a door to make an entrance, which then leads them to a conclusion through this logic trail of slicing the door, that the character is just literally God. It's a funny train of logic. Okay, so when writing this script, I'm not sure if I came off too negatively towards power scalers or not, but honestly, I think to best describe my thoughts towards power scaling is that it's just weird. Sometimes I love it, and sometimes it's hilariously stupid. But above all, it's actually so much fun. Especially when you meet any well-constructed argument with Goku solos and leave it at that. Anyways, that's all from me. I've just been down a massive power scaling rabbit hole on YouTube, and I wanted to talk about it. That's everything. Hope you had a good morning. Subscribe.